I'm Carrie.
And I'm Todd.
And we're with Secure Networkers. So today we are going to kind of review why you would select a private cloud. So one of the things that we had talked about before was the idea of private versus public cloud and why a business would choose one over the other. And one of the reasons you gave me, or the first reason you gave me, was that you felt that you actually could get better performance from a private over public. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so you have the ability to adjust the CPU, you have the ability to adjust the memory that's on the virtual machines that you're running in a more customized way than you would at a public cloud. So what that looks like is you have the ability to look at the CPU monitoring the memory on a console, and you can adjust the performance to the best ability. Lower performance meaning that you're going to lower the CPU amount, and on the memory side you're going to adjust the memory so it's on the higher end.
So you also talked about your options for routing to the private cloud. Things, rather than doing direct internet access, you can just have a point-to-point, or you can kind of expedite for what would be the reasons that you would do that, other than obviously speed? Does it also affect security?
So from a security standpoint, you would do that. It would be more costly, but you have the ability to go to the physical location with a point-to-point MPLS, VPLS circuit. So it would give someone the ability to keep something controlled without it touching the internet.
I see. So we've also talked about expense. So people tend to look at private cloud as more expensive than public cloud, and obviously public cloud, when we say that, we think of the bigger box like AWS and Azure, things like that. So how does pricing, how do you think that compares?
Well, it all depends on what you're doing and how it's architected. But the reality is in the early days, the drive to the public cloud was based on the fact that, we're going to save money. Mm-hmm. We're not having to acquire new equipment. Basically, the model with a private cloud is you're doing the same thing as you're doing with a public cloud without any of the CapEx spend. You're able to do it on an OpEx expense. So it's the same scenario as going to a public cloud. You're just doing it on a more of a local level. I say local meaning that it can be anywhere, but it's not a big name. So you get a more customized feel of what you would do, like you had a co-location. So it's the ability to put something in a data center that's a level 5 data center with all the redundancies that you would have with an AWS, but at the same time, the same type of an experience that you would have if it was your own co-location.
But you talked about that too, that you felt with a private cloud you get this co-location experience, but you don't have that outlay of expensive hardware.
Right, you're not going out, you're not having to keep up all the warranty information on your storage. Now I've got a forklift to put a new storage in place, I've got to buy a new CPU, I've got to buy new switching. This is something that you constantly get a refresh. Mm-hmm. You have new hardware without any of the cost. It comes in as an operating expense.
Well, and I noticed too, things like even doing operating system upgrades, things like that, they're a lot cleaner. You don't have to do a full reinstall of everything, and so. Right,
yeah, because the data is separate. Basically, you have the foundational operating system, you have an application layer, and you have the user data, flat file data, or database systems. All that can be separated very easily because of the way the private cloud has been structured. It's similar to what you have in the public cloud. It's just you're able to customize it a little bit more. So what's happened is people were hosting themselves, or they were co-locating, and they've said, this is just too expensive, so we moved to the public cloud. And we've done these things, and now the expense has grown because one, they've grown inside the cloud. So I think that brings up the next question you were going to ask me about the expense of the public cloud, and one of the biggest problems with public cloud.
Oh, exfiltration, yes. Thank you. So with exfiltration, we talked about if you actually want to get off the public cloud, what kind of costs are you looking at?
Yeah, so these can add up to a lot. Typically, you're seeing 1 to 3 cents per gig on the exfiltration. And the exfiltration, that's just a fancy word for
Getting your
removal.
stuff off.
It means removal. So it's a fancy word there. So basically, the problem runs into is I've got so much data on my public cloud that the amount of time it would take me to download that information and still operate is too great. So therefore, I've basically painted myself into a corner where the cost is so much that I can't get out without it hitting my operating time and my actual cost to get it off of there.
I think one of the main positives, at least in terms of how we do our private cloud, is that we focus on the fact that our customers own their own data. I mean, it's really about, this is all your stuff, and we're simply a means to actually get you to access it.
Yes, and without any of the exfiltration costs.
Right.
So if you decide, hey, I want to bring this back in-house or I want to go back to public cloud, there's no additional fees there for exfiltrating the data.
Right. So that's basically our opinion of, obviously, private cloud. If you have any questions, you can go to our website at securenetworkers.com or give us a call at 281-651-2254.